We're going to be breaking down some Drew Gibson controversy along with our top 5 best MPO and FPO Circle 2 putters. I'm Jake Disc Golf. Alongside me, Swiss Cheese, and this is the Spit Out.
Oh,
We're back. We are back.
We're back. How you doing? We're good.
Pretty good.
Doing good. So what do you want? You want to hit the Drew? Everybody wants to hit the Drew.
Because I think like Drew is also he's like one of those really good guys for like just posting a take on Twitter, and I do commend him for that because at least the opinions he has, he's willing to share, and he's for the most part, I think, willing to create a dialogue. But he's really good at creating dialogue. I don't necessarily know if he's good at after the fact contributing to that. However, we'll be breaking down some recent tweets that he had about.
It feels like you got like a giant butt. Yeah, you're like, oh man, I really like Drew. He does really good this, and I'm just waiting for the giant butt. Like, you know what I mean? That's all.
It just seems like he has these takes, but like he'll keep like elaborating, but he won't directly respond to people. At least that's what I've noticed. And maybe he is, and maybe at a later time. But just like defend your opinion. If you have this opinion, that's cool. Put it out there. But when people be like, "This is why it's bad," be like, continue your point.
Yeah. No, all right. Yeah. So I agree with you. What you're hitting. Drew is awesome for content. He's great for the fans. He's pretty solid on interacting, but let's allude to it. We brought it up enough. Let's introduce it.
We did. All right. So Drew Gibson went out on Twitter and said, "Shout out to any and all course designers. When you raise the basket, you then alter how the target was designed to catch. The process of designing a basket is based at X height, and the PDGA won't approve it unless it meets those standards. Why is raising it okay?" He then goes on to further explain his point. Why do companies have to design a target at X height requirements if raising it to the moon causes lack of course design, makes a green easy, so the fix is to change how the target operates? I understand it can offer good advertisement space, but that shouldn't affect our equipment. No other sport, to my knowledge, do they make the target different to slow people down from scoring. Other sports like baseball actually get accused of juicing the ball to make it better to watch. So that's what he said on Twitter.
Okay, so there are aspects where I kind of see his argument, and I can kind of support it, right? So one, when he brings up that it makes greens easier by raising the pins. I think he's kind of alluded to that it just cheapens the hole by like not making it as difficult with the natural layout, is what I'm assuming. He's kind of hinting because he does comment about OB lines and everything about that later. So I think he's trying to say on those lines of like, instead of placating what the land gives you as far as course designer, it's easier to go shorter and then just raise it. You know what I mean? When you got nothing there, all right, let's just put it on an elevated basket, right? So
I don't think that I don't necessarily agree all the time. I think there are holes in specific where it can seem to cheapen it, but I don't think that's necessarily always the case. Like, I can't remember the hole at Maple Hill right now, but there's the one where it's like you have to throw the big sidearm over around the water, and that's an elevated basket. I think that's a lot due to like you having, I don't know. It just seems like it does create it harder because like if you're going for a higher target, you're going to be skipping farther past stuff like that. And I feel like just like a lot of times they're used for like, especially around hills and stuff like that, to where like yes, if you're putting higher at it, you have a better chance of then rolling back or rolling forward or down the hill. Like I see what you're saying of like it maybe like cheapens it, but I think it does add like a lot of like more skill to the shot.
And it certainly gets in your head. It's funny that you say Maple Hill because that might be in a way raising that basket. And you get why they're trying to do that because a lot of time you're facing back a death putt, right? So that's kind of why they're doing it. So I understand why they're doing it. But also by raising, I feel like they increased the probability of an ace by also raising that basket as much as it is. Like probably more so than how the pin is designed in the natural position. It increases those probabilities. So it's kind of interesting that as soon as you said that, I'm like, man, that elevated actually probably increases the chances for that hole getting ace. That because I've thrown that hole when it hasn't been elevated. So you know what I mean? So it's like, man, so in a way that helps and it kind of contradicts it. I get it. And I think he's talking like, I think sometimes like Drew doesn't also highlight like what he's talking. If his conversation is like separated for pro level courses, like on the tour, or if it's like just general. So I kind of feel like this is more
or I feel like it's for the tour specific. I think every opinion that he has is going to be for professional disc golfers.
Yeah, because he's alluding to a lot of the professionalization of like other pros, other professional sports. So I get it. So I think like when you and I hear this, it's like, oh man, what are you talking about? Like, if Jesus heard this, Jesus would be like, what are you talking about? That's great. I love those holes. Like it's different, right? Like because it creates something different for us. So I think he's trying to allude to it on the pro level. And like his comparisons, I'll do it. He supports them. Like there's plenty of contradictions to every statement he made in the pro game. Like, you know what I mean? So like it's kind of like there's plenty of like differences that like you lay. Like I understand he's trying to say like, all right, the basketball lines, the basketball is 10 feet at all times, both sides, every this, the backboard's this size, baseball 90 feet between each base. Yeah, sure, you're absolutely right. But there's other twists and designs where even you have those that you're placating to your advantage or placating to a home field advantage by doing things. Like even like football, like where you got like shadows and like how the stadium is designed and playing the shadows, and like man, even baseball has it where like certain stadiums are worse with shadows. Again, same fields, within the same rules, but slightly different tweaks that makes every visit and every location unique in its own. And I think that's
even
and
if
the
you
fans
just yeah, I think even like in a broader sense, it's like every baseball stadium you go to, none of them are exactly the same size. Every single disc golf course is going to be different. I don't understand like why, like what's the problem with then elevating the basket if it's not naturally set? Like that's the problem. It doesn't necessarily seem to be too ugly in my opinion. And I think it does add difficulty. I don't necessarily think it just cheapens the hole. I think maybe there's a times where that's the attempt, but like the one like where I can see this being like done is there's a hole at Fountain Hills right now. It's just a straight shot. The Mando definitely does not need to be there at all, but it's there to again make this hole be less than just a 280-foot straight shot. But when it comes down to it, that's what it is with an elevated basket. Now, like, does the hole get cheapened because it's elevated basket? Well, yeah, it's like playing to the gimmick, but that's the only thing making this hole hard. Like it's just sometimes necessary.
Yeah, and like you said, man, even obviously to make the pros second guess or to consider something different than like just natural putt form, I think creates more drama and better television. You know what I mean? Like, man, there's nothing more nervier than watching like an elevated putt and win. Like, is he gonna get? Are they gonna get a nose up? Or, you know what I mean? Is it gonna flutter? All that stuff. So that kind of adds to it. Now, as a pro, the funny thing is, I think if you ask the pros, I don't think many of them are gonna like die on this hill with Drew. Like, you know what I mean?
No,
I
don't think so.
Like a lot of them are just gonna be like, yeah, man, it is what it is. Like you just adjust. It's disc golf, right? Like I get it, and yeah, like the other thing, like he talked about like Curry not changing like the 3-point line, you know what I mean? And he discussed that, and it's like, man, there's plenty of sports that have changed the rules all the time. Yeah, Steph Curry has changed the NBA. Do you see them making the 3-point line further, ball bigger, rim smaller, rim higher?
And that's a tweet from Drew.
Yeah, it's from Drew Gibson. And I disagree because there's plenty of other sports. Now, basketball may be different, but like first of which it was the 3-point line only existed to get fan engagement in a secondary league. So using the 3-point line that was kind of not part of the original rules of the game, but added to add flair is not the greatest of things just because it hasn't changed in a few months. Baseball, they raised and lowered the mound as runs kind of scored. You know what I mean? You have speed of game stuff that being done out. Like everybody's trying to get attention of a fan base where they can get this from different aspects of all over. It's how you keep it. And for elevated basketball do that, you keep it, and you as a pro, you adjust. Like, sorry, you know what I mean? It's a bad take. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's parts where I can pull where it's like, yeah, I think that is easier. I think that does sometimes some holes it can cheapen it. You know what I mean? But there's other times where those holes don't have much of another choice. So, like you said on that straight edge, why not make the hole more difficult for pros that are the elite of the league? Like, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the stuff that where it's like, come on, Drew. Like, man,
I just think that it's a tool that
gotta love.
It's just a skill that like it's why like it just seems like you're complaining that you're not good at something. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's why he's saying it. However, I just don't understand like why is that such a bad aspect of the hill? Because are you complaining a basket that's already naturally elevated like on a hill? Because like why is it different than that it's not natural? If your argument that it doesn't look good, I think that's a completely other point than what you're trying to make right now. So I feel like that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's just very strange to me. Like you're a professional disc golfer's like blaming a skill. Like why should professional disc golfer not be good at putting in elevated baskets? Like I just like that's part of the game. Like I just like
Yeah.
it's just like so it's like what you're gonna start complaining about like holes like not having like wide enough like feet in between the trees. Like you're gonna be not like I just don't understand like why this is so hard of a concept of elevating the basket. It's just strange to me.
Yeah, it is kind of a fairly weird concept. And this is not like the only time where he kind of like talked about course layouts, like tournament layouts, you know what I mean? Where he's hinted at like other flaws. It kind of seems like a neat little passion for him, you know what I mean? It's cool that like, he kind of goes to a course and like dissects it in a neat way. I just, like you said, when you're not defending it or you're not listening to other sides or aspects to where you're like, hey, this does happen. You know what I mean? Like, I get how that could be frustrating, but who cares, man? It's what he's definitely a feels guy, and that's how his feelings are. You know, I will say, like, he made a comment about rope lines where I was like, yeah, man, I agree about rope lines. I can get behind that, Drew. Like, then he also threw out
Yeah.
randos, and he threw everything out. Like, he's like, all right, I'm going to go for broke. Like,
I do respect Drew Gibson putting his opinion out there a lot. I do like actually agree with opinion like quite a bit, I'd say, more often than not. However, this is just one of those times where I just don't necessarily see like why elevated baskets are a problem at all. I think it's okay to like disagree, but this is just one of those times. But with that being said, we're going to be going on to this week's rendition. Or did you want to talk about some recent signings? Or I can't remember if you said we were talking about that.
Oh yeah. No, man, I will say, like, we're just going to kind of allude to it. Like, I think a lot of people have kind of, we had the initial lull of the off season, right? Where you're just, okay, it's done. There's a few little attorneys here, a few little more things to watch. Now you obviously got friends, things of that nature to kind of preoccupy your time. But I think I just want to highlight, because probably in the next week or two, possible month, like, we're inching closer to that, like, late December, January, New Year announcements, like as far as signings. So I think a lot of these conversations are kind of happening at this point in time. And it's kind of interesting, though we might not hear it, and where they're going to get released, like a la Nico, where no inkling, no, you know what I mean? We don't have like a smoking gun like Conrad. Like, where's Conrad Steven with this kind of free agents this year? So it's kind of interesting, like the difference of like not having such a big names and like how it's being tracked, how it's being attention. I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about it just because there are so few. I just want to remind you, there's going to be some shit.
Yeah, we just actually got like a little bit of someone was alluding to a contract signing that was on Twitter. We had Chandler Kramer, so that he's got a big contract coming up here now. So we're gonna be seeing where he announces if it's gonna be back with Lone Star. I don't know what Lone Star it can do after the signing of Nico and what Kramer wants, because I can see Kramer moving on to a different company if there's still openings in a lot of companies. I think that like Innova has to have something big. I think in this offseason of like either like they secured Calvin, but they've just been slacking so much in the last years of losing McBeth, losing Conrad, losing a lot of their big talent. Of like they just need something more than just the FPO women who haven't yet filled the role they were attended to, I think. However, I do think they are going to be like Hannah and Evelyn are going to come around to still being atop on the podium. I really would like to see Innova do something, and I think a Kramer pickup wouldn't be too bad.
No, I don't think Kramer would be a terrible signing at all. I think he's got a lot of potential. Certainly on the younger side, so you know what I mean. He's got room to grow, and he's a personality. You know what I mean. He's different.
That's the biggest
thing. He's different. He's not your cookie cutter. What our cookie cutter disc golfers are, and Nova needs a little bit of that like blood in them. I think they kind of got a little bit stale. Like, as great as Heinrich is, you know what I mean? You know what you're getting out of him. He's going to hit his pace, and it's going to be a little bit different than Kramer. And I think Kramer's a good signing. You also, man, like, you got obviously the Brody Smith is kind of around the corner. You know what I mean? That would be big one. I'm assuming he's got to be in a bunch of talks on those with a number of sponsors. And then, you know what I mean? You got people that need to be locked up that are younger that made them breakthroughs. And possibly maybe there's some convincing. There's always like one of those one surprise of, oh, this person left. We had the Ricky leave. You know what I mean? We had the so that where they're under contract. And we may see that in this offseason just because of there's less people to sign. So now where are you going to get them? You're going to go find them, right? So I think there might be one of those or two. That's all I wanted to hit. I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people are like forgetting it, not mentioning it, or it's on the back burner, and it's just kind of like, man, we're pretty close. This stuff's in the room. You know what I mean? There people are in the room right now. Those conversations are being had. It's kind of cool.
Yep. So hopefully,
and just like listen to like some of those talks.
Oh yeah.
I wish you could be like a fly on the wall and like you know what I mean? I just want to know like because man, usually like other professionals, you're like, oh, the years are the sticking point, or oh, he wants more bonus. I want to know like what these players are putting their foot down on, right? Like, and you kind of see it. Like Nico's obviously feels passionate about having his discs, his lines. Like he had it now with his last 2 contracts, in this one. So yeah, like it's kind of interesting where I just want to know the player side of like, what do you like? What's the support you want and need? And interesting to see what the sponsors do with that. So it's kind of neat. That's what I wish I could be. I'm gonna be like an agent. Cool. I need to be like an agent.
That'd be pretty cool. That would be cool. All right. With that being said, hopefully in the next few weeks we're gonna get more news on signings, extensions, all stuff like that. Maybe even who like we think people should pick up or what the type of talent we think companies should pick up. I think there's a lot we could say on that. But with all that, we're going to be wrapping up the spit out with another top 5 this week. We're going to be doing the best MPO and FPO Circle 2 putters to complement last week where we broke down Circle 1 putters. So if you haven't listened to that, go check that out from last week's episode. Without further ado, let's jump into the FPO best Circle 2 putter.
Nice. I'm excited because I think I might have forgotten a lot of these.
Yeah, we did make these lists a while ago. I think the other thing that is important to preface is this isn't necessarily what the stats say or what other people are saying. This is a genuine Swiss cheese and JK Disc Golf, the Spitout's official top 5. This is who we think going forward and like just in maybe like history of the career. This is what we're saying, especially right now, the best FPO putters are. So if you disagree, definitely let us know. If you agree, definitely let us know. But jumping into the honorable mentions for this, right. Oh, I just want people to know that. Like, I want people to like, if they disagree, to like tell us like and why, because maybe that will change my opinion on things. But I'll jump into our honorable mentions. We have Paige Pierce and Missy Gannon.
Pretty big names on our honorable mentions, right? I think this is going to kind of like shock people right off the bat with arguably 2 very solid FPO Circle 2 putters. I think a lot of people kind of agree Paige had a rough time putting, especially from Circle 2 this year. Her percentage is usually a little bit better than what the 17% here last year. So I think we've kind of seen that. Now, I will say Missy's more probably going to be a shock on him because when she does hit them, they are beauties, and you're going to see them all over. You're going to see them in a bunch of videos, a bunch of clips. So stick to you longer, right? And when she's in coverage and you're forced to watch her and like live and everything along those because she's hitting final card, those stick to you and those remember. But 17%, I think a lot of people would put her at a higher percentage of that just with what's in their mental from what's applied to us on content, right? So
yeah, I would agree with that. And I think one thing that I think is super important, and I think just to preface, not necessarily just these 2 people, but again, going on is the importance of when putts are being hit, because it's one thing to say that you're hitting consistent Circle 2 putts, but it's another thing when you're hitting consistent Circle 2 putts in the face of pressure. And it seemed that when that is being applied to Paige Pierce in some of the times that we've seen this last year, we're missing the old Paige, the 5, like, you know, the Paige that won every single tournament of where like it didn't matter what was coming her way, she was going to bang that Circle 2 putt in. Especially when no pressure was applied, she was banging in damn near everything at some point. And now we're seeing the cracks in her shield. You know, as time goes on, we're seeing no longer the prime Paige, which is a shame that I'm saying that out loud because in recent interviews, Paige has come out and say that she hasn't hit her peak yet, and that's just not what I've been seeing, unfortunately. And I think going along,
Missy Gannon, I will say, like Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was gonna say,
You're
man,
good.
if it was prettiest putt, like, if it was prettiest putt,
Mhm.
circle two putt, Missy's probably my 1 or 2 for sure.
Yeah.
Like if it's just pretty putt looking like what looks like it, Missy's up there, man. Like, so I get why people could hate on that, and we'll own it. But that's all.
I don't like.
I
I
think they
think
might be
being
more
right
mad
outside the
about
top
the
5 is not bad.
Yeah, I think they'd be more mad about the Missy than the Page. I might be over analyzing, but I would.
I don't know,
That's just my opinion.
but I think people are only mad about that because like I think the Missy Gannon like the idea of Missy Gannon has been really cemented in 2021, especially that back half of 2021. And I don't think in 2022 she ever matched that level. I don't think she matched like
Sure.
the end of her finale was just incredible. And what she was doing at like Throw Pink, insane. She was playing like her best disc golf to ever seen. And I don't think in 2022 she ever saw that. So I think it's fair to like have her being that 6th best. There's only 5 spots, like being number 6 isn't a bad
Good
thing,
point.
especially how tight it is.
Fair. All right, let's get into our top 5. I'm excited to see him now.
Sitting in number 5, we have Holyn Handley.
All right, I'm gonna own this one. This is a Quinn pick. I think Jay felt that I was really passionate about this and agreed with me. So I love that Jay put the stat up as far as 2021 10%, 2022 16%. So a lot of this is just also about potential. I think she has a mean step putt and kind of what Jay does like in step putt. It's got force, it's got power, it's what I mean, and it's getting in at center and low. And as far as circle two putts go, Holyn Handley has one of the best looking one, like a la Ezra, you know what I mean? A little bit of that like power step putt. And then the FPO is a really cool thing to watch. And that's why I'm putting her in circle 2. I think she's going to climb over this. I think she might hit there. I wouldn't be shocked at 20. 20 is a lot. Like 18, 19, 20, I would put her in there for sure next season.
Yeah, like Swiss said, man, this is definitely like he pitched the idea of Holyn Handley to me because I'm not necessarily the biggest Holyn Handley. Like I'm a fan, don't get me wrong, but I'm not like a super fan. Quinn, he's on the line. He's dipping a toe in the super fan, which is okay. Everyone needs to like pick a fan, like pick a pro that they want to ride and die with, and it just happens to be Holyn Handley for Swiss. And he pitched me what happened. And when you look back at 2021 to 2022, there's a clear improvement there. And the other thing between Paige and Missy is I saw a decline going from those 2 seasons. And we haven't seen peak Holyn Handley yet. I do agree with that. And I think that she's only improving. I think all her stats from last year to this year prove that. And I think what we've seen, especially on social media, she's one of the most active pros on social media. And I, continually is seeing the progression and her thought process, which is really important to me because I think the way pros like look at the game, look at their form is really important. And now they're going to prove they're constantly learning. And I think Holyn Handley does that very well. So I think that with the potential, like you said, it's right that we put her in the top 5. Now she has to go out in the 2023 season and prove it to all of you guys.
Absolutely. I agree with that. That's a very fair assessment. You're going to do
going
things,
on,
guys. I'm telling you. Things.
Yeah. Going on to spot number 4, we have Catrina Allen.
So I think a lot of people kind of lost what Catrina put together in the early half of the season, especially in circle 2. And I think that's just because admittedly, Catrina Allen said she had some rough days where she was kind of out of competition and then had a hot round where she'd climb back up. She had a lot of those. And part of her hot rounds was as much off the tee as it was on circle 2 putts. 20% in circle 2 is obviously very impressive. As far as with the FPO, it's up there. Definitely in the top 5 range. And a lot of this, I think, could be even higher had she not have gotten in that little slumpy run that she kind of had. If she kept pace with what she did at the beginning of the year and ran it through the season, we would be talking as far as like Tattar-esque lineups, placings, things of that nature. And granted, I understand Tattar kind of made that more difficult, but man, she was sick in circle 2 this year, especially early.
I think if you only counted Catrina Allen final round stats, she would be way higher up on this list. But that being said, I think if we look at like 2015 Catrina Allen stats, she wouldn't be anywhere near the top 5. So I think she's found a really good spot in that top 4 range. I think, again, what I'm going to be harping on this one is the 2021 to 2022 switch. She improved upon her percentage. She was making more circle two putts, which I think is a very important thing because I think the trends are, important to look at. I think that when we see Paige continually going down, it's only fair to give Catrina Allen a little bit of edge, not only with her percentage being a little bit higher, but her continuing to grow on her skill. And I think it's I think it's non-debatable that we've seen the progression of Catrina Allen's circle two putt go up like very steadily throughout the years. I don't necessarily, there was like a big jump at one point, but now it just seems that like she's consistently hitting more of these putts. She's feeling a little bit more comfortable. And I think that not only grows on like the edge of circle one, but we've really seen it on that like 36 to like 40 feet. We've really been seeing, I think, the confidence grow for Catrina Allen. And I think that she's going to continue to grow. And I think that fourth place spot is a really good for her on the list.
Nice.
Moving on to the third place spot, we have Valerie Mandujano.
So Valerie Mandujano put on an exceptional year. Large part of it was putting game. We had her both in circle one, and now she's in the circle two. No doubt about it. 19% 2022 season, 3-point climb. Whenever you're getting 3% climb and higher, you're stacking and building on your career to improve, and your placings are going to improve. Obviously, we saw that with Valerie when your putt's getting better. Because I think, especially in the FPO, this stat is going to kind of separate you amongst the players in the top fives, top tens consistently. And Valerie obviously put it together this year. I think she's gonna do similar climbs where she's gonna just steadily improve. She's gonna fall more into her line, and I think a lot of that's with her putt. I think she's got room to get improvement there, and I think when she's getting her growth in this offseason, she's gonna be looking at her putt, and I'm expecting solid things next year.
I think the one thing for me when I'm talking about Valerie Mandujano and why I give her a step up on Catrina Allen, especially after we're seeing maybe a little bit less of a circle two putt, even though it's just by 1%, like it still matters a little bit. I would like to say that she's fifth in all of FPO for circle two putt, which makes Catrina fourth. But going back last year, she was seventh overall in FPO, and I think that shows consistency. When she's consistently being in that top 10, I don't think Valerie Mandujano was necessarily a person we talked a whole lot about last year, or anyone for that matter. There was a year, people knew the name. I do think like she did play, well, but compared to her 2022 season, not nearly as much. And when you're putting up that circle two putts, even when you're not necessarily being well known, I think that just shows you that that's just your game. And I think that's what Valerie Mandujano game is. I think it is those circle two putts along with her circle one putt. We did see her second overall in the FPO field for circle one. And that just shows, I think, her overall putting ability is what gets her to be competing in these tournaments. And with the wins she had in 2022, I think that her confidence doesn't really change between where she is, when she is, especially knowing Valerie Mandujano and how she plays. She's the quickest player I've ever seen. So I think that her putt is pretty much locked in on no matter the pressure. There's not time for the pressure to be to her mind because it's already over by the time she has any thought or process of going on it whatsoever. So I think Valerie Mandujano is, in my opinion, the clear choice for the third best FPO putter in the division.
Man, you're absolutely right on that. She does seem to be like, man, it doesn't even seem like work with her or stress with her. Like when she's on the course, we've seen it where she's just real chill, looking focused. You know what I mean? Good.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to the second place spot, we have Kristin Tattar.
So yeah, you guys might kind of be, if you're watching on the tubes, you might be looking at, in a 60% circle two. I'm down from the year before. To be fair, I don't think she put herself into that placing that often. You know what I mean? Or I think a lot of this is why her stats were a little bit lower this year was because I don't think she needed a lot of these putts while hitting them. So there's plenty of times where, you saw layups from, granted outside 40 or so, but those are what's going to diminish your stats, right? She's not running everything because she's got a lead and she's maintaining. So I think some of those are why they're lower. Obviously, she's well known and well documented for her circle two putts. We've all seen Michigan, we've all seen the clips of hitting her bomb from deep putts, generating cool. And it's really neat to kind of see a straddle putter on a circle two list. That doesn't happen as often as it is, especially with a lot of people people developing step putts, jump putts, things of that nature. So it's really kind of cool also to see that in a way. But yeah, we all know how great to touch putt is. Easy to put her to. She's definitely going to improve this number in and around 18, 20. I'm going to put her at next year for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the one where we're seeing the decline from 2021 to 2022, which kind of goes I'm being a little bit not necessarily a hypocrite, but going against my logic of my other picks. But I think it's pretty clear on Tattar and what she's done, how she's going to improve. I think that her pressure putts are insane. The times that where she's like has to hit putts and she does, especially from circle 2, is incredible. And if you're right now thinking to yourself, Champions Cup, I think that Kristin Tattar hits that putt 99 out of 10 times, and that was the one time. I truly do. Especially if you put that tournament at the end of the season, there's no way in hell she misses that putt. And I think that was just like the one time or the beginning of her season. That was like the first major we kind of really saw Kristin Tattar like back and ready to go for. And I think that was that was her one slip. Tell me another time that season she messed up, because I don't know, didn't see her off the podium. So I think that just is very easy to kind of say that she's going to improve upon this season. And I think that she's going to be a force to be reckoned with next year, especially in the circle 2 range.
Absolutely.
Going on to our number 1 spot, hands down, we have Ohn Scoggins.
Man, we gotta start putting respect on Owen's name. You know what I mean? As far as her putt game and everything along those lines, we see the drop off from.
No, this is switched. This is yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say. So yeah, she went from 2021 15%. In the clip, it's reversed. And then 2022 jumped up 31%. Kind of what I alluded to, Missy. People know now Ohn as a circle 2 putter. When you start getting those clips and those vids that everybody remembers, the big hits, the par saves that are from like 44 that she was hitting, you know what I mean? What she did in the match, was it the match play in Colorado? Where she was in everything in that tournament. So a lot of people got to kind of recognize the game. And it's a large part, this stat is why she's still up there competing at the age that she's in. When she's hitting this percentage shots, it's understandable why she's in the top 5 and had one of her best cash finish on the year in her career. And it's a large part because of this game. It may not look the best at all times. It may be fluttery, but for whatever reason, that bastard sticks. I don't know what it is, but it stays in the chains. And a lot of people got to start respecting her game on the circle 2.
Yeah, I totally agree. That is her game. That is why she stays up there. And when she steps to a circle 2 putt, there's a lot of times she's making it, especially if it's around that circle's edge. I'm very confident in Ohn. It's just crazy. Like, you're right. Her wobble putt is like, I don't understand like how she puts that much wobble, but it still has the consistency to go to the basket exactly where she wanted it to go. But she does it. She is like hands down like when you look at a 31% and your next best was 20, I think it was. Like, come on, like you're hitting 10% more circle 2 putts. It just shows Owen's game and what she's done and what she's created in herself. So I think it just, I'm trying to think of things to say, but like the stats just speak for itself.
Yeah, even if she dropped down to 25%, she's still lapping.
Yeah,
other parts of the field. You know what I mean? In all honesty.
Yeah, I don't think this one is really debatable. Like she is, and I really hope that 2023 it continues to be that way.
That would be awesome. I'd love 1 year.
It would be cool. But that was the FPO list. If you agree, disagree, definitely let us know as before we move on to the best MPO Circle 2 putters. We're going to lead off, of course, with some honorable mentions with Isaac Robinson and Cameron Messerschmidt.
So Isaac Robinson blew up on the scene. A lot of people who are in the know who follow disc golf consistently, at least they're going to know Isaac Robinson. And again, memorable shots, right? We remember Portland making a name on the scene, hitting large circle 2 putts. And kind of what you alluded to with Valerie earlier, it's robotic. It's step up, hit it. Step up, hit it. No thought, no concern, buckets, right? That's all. Always imagining and hitting it. Well deserved to kind of be in the top 5. I think he's right in this solid spot. You know what I mean? I could get behind somebody saying he should be in the top 5, but honestly, this is a good spot with him. Now, as far as Cameron, a player that's a little bit lesser known, a little bit less coverage, but the dude can putt. And anybody in the know who's seen him or been on the course or been on the tour who has a chance to watch this dude putt needs to absolutely hit it. It's well worth any of the clips that you can see. The dude just hits chains all the time.
He does. Yeah, Isaac Robinson, like you said, I think you nailed it pretty much. I think he's a rookie. We're going to see where he goes. It's very hard for me to really put anybody else above him because we don't know what he's going to do next season. So we're going to really kind of just ride it out, and hopefully he continues these things. And then I feel like it's pretty fair to put him up higher on this list. Cameron Messerschmidt. I think a lot of people would be upset maybe that we're not putting him up even in the top 10 or in the top 5, even though he's the number 1 ranked Circle 2 putter based on statistics at 39%. And I think the only reason that we're especially in the MPO, I think timing of putts matters. And Cameron Messerschmidt, unfortunately, has never had the opportunity to hit a putt for the win, hit a putt for a tie, or anything where be in contention, where a lot of people, even Isaac Robinson and a bunch of people on this list have times where they've hit putts for world championships, tournament wins, or things where the pressure of the putt matters significantly. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I think it just matters. There's a little bit more than banging round 1 Circle 2 putts than the putt for a world championship. So those are honorable mentions. Let's jump into the MPO top 5. Starting with number 5, we have Paul McBeth.
Man, this dude just has a highlight reel of Circle 2 putts in his career, right? And most of them, kind of like Barry Sanders playing against the Bears, most of them are at Worlds, where he's hitting them when they matter, or other majors, along those lines. So he's lights out. Slight year down on the putts, but he's still, even with that, he's still at a 32% clip. He's still up there with all the other names. He's still in the game as far as the best, one of arguably the best putters, especially in.
Yeah, so for everyone screaming at their TV or trying to dislike this video, I encourage you very much to pause and let's hear out the best of the list. But yes, Paul is known for his Circle 2 putt. It's what he's done at Worlds, especially. He steps up to a lot of these Circle 2 putts, and you know they're going to be drained. However, we've seen a slight drop in this. We've seen the McBeth effect or McBeast mode kind of slowly kind of turn up less and less. And I think that just kind of shows just his overall prime is done. And I think with that comes his Circle 2. I think that's one of the first things we're seeing kind of go. Yes, he does pop off with a little bit, but I think that there are times in pressure that he has been starting to slip a little bit in the Circle 2 area. Now, if you're arguing that he wants to be higher on this list, I can definitely hear you out. I'm all ears because he may deserve it. However, at this time, especially going on to 2023, I don't know if he can continue to hold it up. And you got to stop telling me about his 2015, 2016, or he didn't win, was it? His 2014, 2015, 2020, or 19, I mean, whatever his world champions were, stop telling me about those because he's got to continue to prove it. I know what he did in 2022, but I was there, and trust me, he missed plenty of Circle 2 putts that you would have thought he would have made. Number 4, we have Eagle McMahon.
Great, guys. I understand the year that Eagle kind of had. He's been a little bit outside of people's pictures, in part due to injury, so in large part. So I understand that 100%. What he did show us in European was that his putt did not falter despite the injury. Eagle's putt is probably, in my opinion, the prettiest Circle 2 putt. Maybe Calvin Heimberg might be right there. That's 1A, 1B. As far as just watching it, it's something that just keeps going, keeps gliding on a straight plane, center bucket all the time, and it's just a thing of beauty. I think he's going to be in line for some big things this next year. I think he's going to kind of change his game a lot like Simon did, but the one thing he doesn't have to do is change his putt. I think that's his, and I don't think there's many above him. I think he could be higher on this list if he had a full season. Understandable where he's at now.
Yeah, I think it comes down to not being there for a lot of the 2022 season. But with that being said, his one tournament that he played, or I think he definitely played a few tournaments, but that being said, the tournaments that he played, the Circle 2 putt definitely seemed to be on, as well as going up from 2021. I think that's kind of a cheap thing to say, though, because obviously a lot of less attempts. but it did just show that his circle 2 is a staple in this game, and I think the long putts is what he does, and that's not changing. I think if we really focus on 2021, we can think of some crazy putts he said. And if we're draining 100-foot putts, no step, no jump, you're going to be pretty good in like any long range putt. I think that's just hands down. So I think Eagle kind of cemented his face as being one of the best circle 2 putters. I think that's not going to change anytime soon.
No.
In the number 3 spot, we have Corey Ellis.
So I'm glad Corey Ellis has started getting a name on the putting game, and we're going to keep shining that light on him. Slight decrease, 1% down from circle 2, but this dude is a lights out putter in the game, arguably the best putter, overall putter. He's kind of really up there also, in my opinion. And it's not a name that's too common. He fought off some wins, kind of highlighted some of that putt, but this guy's been around, been doing it, and he's going to keep stacking. He's going to keep sticking and keep proving. So he deserves to be in top 5. We're putting him at 3 in large part because of his potential. You know what I mean? In my opinion, and I think he's just going to continue this success on the putting. I think he's going to be dedicated this season with, I think, him realizing that he can be there. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times it's not, you know what I mean? I could be there consistently. And I think he got that in the last season. I think he's going to lock in a very solid season this upcoming year.
Yeah, I think you're totally right of just that factor of him always being there. We saw that at MVP where he was kind of sticking in there. One of those small mistakes goes a long way. But, staying up to date on one of the biggest tournaments of the tour. And what he does is putt. Last year being number 1 in both Circle 1 and Circle 2. This year falling a little bit into the 4th place spot in Circle 2, but really dropped into Circle 1. So I think it's pretty much fair to say that going into 2022, he had down putting year, which is what we've seen. And if we're going to take that as still being a 35% from Circle 2, being 4th best in the MPO field, that's pretty good. So I think the 3rd place spot is kind of very fair for him. And I think going, like you said, dedicating over the offseason, especially to his putt, to what he does, to what he does best, I think it's pretty much fair to say that it's only going to improve, especially if he gets a little bit of contract bonus, which I kind of feel is fair in the coming months here because of what he's been able to accomplish in 2022.
Nice.
Number 2 spot, we have Andrew Marwede.
Man, another name, and that may not be on everybody's mind, but he's got a soft spot in my heart. This dude, I love putters, man. As far as my game and watching it, I just kind of enjoy the different aspects of putting it. And I think Andrew Marwede has his own twist on a putt, and I really dig it. And Circle 2, he's kind of like a little bit more of like a little floatier poppy putter. And I think there's some of that's missing with a lot of these other Circle 2s on this list. A lot of them are more power spinners. And I think this guy is well-rounded and kind of doing a versatile difference of what's needed. And he's a great Circle 2 putter. I think he's just a few rounds he's got that classic like one poor round and then he's right back in there, or not even like blow up round. It's just like he didn't keep pace. And I think when he starts locking in that in another year, he'll be good. And his putt game is going to always put him in the picture.
Yeah, I think that Andrew Marwede does what Andrew Marwede does, and that's hit putts. Leading in the Circle 1, and then taking 2nd place in the Circle 2 category only to Cameron Messerschmidt by 1 stroke. And I think he's done it a little bit more times that matter. Granted, this year, again, not the best season for Andrew Marwede, but he still is up there and about there and here and there. Last year, again, carrying over from 30%. I think 30% is still it would still almost be on or top 5, at least in the top 6. So I don't think that we're going to be seeing Andrew Marwede, fall too much going into the 2023 season, but with an 8% jump going into that, it only seems that Andrew Marwede is improving as a disc golfer. I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of stays at this 38 or improves upon that putt. I think that's the one thing Andrew Marwede really has going for him is that putt, and I just kind of can see him consistently being able to drop in these putts.
He's going nowhere. He's going to be right up there this season too.
And the number 1 MPO Circle 2 putter is none other than Gannon Buhr.
Man, how would you guys love to be 17 and hitting 37% from Circle 2?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On your arguably 2nd full tour or first year and a half tour run. to have the nerve to be able to do that at his age, competing with the competition that he's doing weekly and still putting up the percentage. This isn't like a pop off. This isn't, you know what I mean, one great tournament. He's consistently up there. He's one of the best putters in there. He's versatile. He can putt in any which direction, whatever needed. He can pressure putt. We saw that at USDGC this year, hitting just monster putts. Say what you will about his time. He's passionate about the game, and he's passionate about locking in. And I don't mind spending a little bit extra time in a pause just to enjoy him hitting some of these monster putts from Circle 2.
Yeah, I think Gannon Buhr really cemented that he is an overall great disc golfer, but he's really good in Circle 2. He's very meticulous of like his form and how he does things, and he's not afraid to take a little bit extra time to make sure he's comfortable. And I think with all these factors, he's shown that he's really good at it. I think it was a really good point about USDGC and that pressure, because you not only had the pressure of this being a major this entire time, but you have a pressure of, oh my God, that I'm leading this major the entire time. And that I can't imagine is too well on your conscience the entire 4 days. Now, Gannon Buhr was able to hold it on and continue to hit monster putts the entire time. So I think that just that being said, that Gannon Buhr just overall has what it takes to become a better putter, especially when you look on, like you said, not just a tournament here and there. No, it was consistently throughout the entire season, going from 29% Circle 2 to 37%. That just shows overall how well he is. He being the third best Circle 2 putter on tour, and in my opinion, the number one best putter overall.
Didn't he win the All-Star at the beginning of the scene too?
I don't know.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't he win?
I don't pay attention to that.
I thought he won the All-Star one.
But that was the Spit Out's top 5 best MPO and FPO putters. Let us know, guys, if you agree, disagree, where we should have left off. Or overall, I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate comments on why is Paul McBeth number 5, but that's so well. That just always happens. If you ever talk bad about Paul McBeth, you get hate comments, so it's awesome.
And I think whatever number you put Paul McBeth is going to be, why is Paul at that number? Like,
why is it number 1?
Yeah, like, whatever number you put at. So that's that. Okay, at me, I don't mind. I'll take that one.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of The Spit Out. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like as well as subscribe to the channel. Follow us on our individual social medias, as well as check out Kirby's Disc Golf World coming out tomorrow and everything else coming out on the Disc Golf World channel. Thank you guys so much for 1,000 subscribers. I feel like I should say that since this is the first video coming out since we hit 1,000 subs. Thank you guys so much. We finally hit that milestone. We hit 900 subscribers since August. So thank you guys so much for supporting. Keep checking everything out, and hopefully a lot more is in tune for you guys. So stay tuned. See you in the next one.
Peace, guys.